You know, when you have this old advert of a video game where it becomes more innuendo than you think? This advert specifically was one of those adverts that made me laugh so much.
Almost there.
Jeffrey, what are you doing in there?
Nothing.
Open the door this instant.
Yeah.
Jeffrey, my God, you're gonna go blind.
I don't care. I don't care.
I don't know about you, but this advert was really great. I wish I was living in that generation too, to be honest. Street Fighter Alpha 2 came through with the coldest intros of all time, with Akuma just standing there in the flames. It's so deadly. But after a successful and a really good start to the series Street Fighter Alpha provided, I was looking forward to seeing where Street Fighter Alpha 2 was taking it. But honestly, I could say this was bigger and better, with characters that are included from Street Fighter 2, Final Fight and Street Fighter 1, and a new character such as Sakura. Also characters that were hidden in Street Fighter 1 making a return and showing in full faces now, which is even better. Akuma, Bison and Dan were great. Also, things are different about Dan as well, as when you pick him, he's now got a different frame rate. But seriously, looking at him, the frame rates are so well done in this game that he just looks so angry and so vicious at the same time. But in another trailer of Street Fighter Alpha 2, you got a little girl called Sakura who's a big fan of Ryu. Basically, she's on the hunt to find him, and basically you got all these characters that she's running past, including Bison in the Uber. But generally, this was one of the most fun and really animated trailers that I've seen ever. You ain't never catching me in the M Bison Uber ever in my life. Street Fighter Alpha 2 had so many versions in the gameplay. Basically, you got arcades, but there were consoles like Super Nintendo. They also had console on the PS1, and also they had another version called Street Fighter Alpha 2 Gold, which is basically the best one, really, when you ask me. But also the cameos in this one were really cool in chun-li stages, where you got so many people cycling. But as a character for Dan, he also was pretty decent in this game. So personally, I think Dan was really good at developing this character way, although the loading time took a very long time to get over. Timer Garage was included in Street Fighter Alpha 2. You can basically use custom combos. Gen and Guy were the deadliest ones for me, but Ryu and Ken were also pretty good at their own custom combos as well, which is great, and so was Dan. So basically all of that was all done pretty well, so I give a shout out to Capcom for doing such a really nice job at one of those. Cameos have really stepped up in this game. As you can see, Eliza, who's the wife of Ken, or going to be a wife, basically is included in one of Ken's stages. Every time Ken is fighting, Eliza basically poses and reacts in a way. Whenever she gets closer towards Ken, she basically just lusts over him, and when they're far away, basically she's just cheering her on, doing all kinds of stuff. But it's kind of cool how they animated it pretty well, and she's sitting right next to Captain Commando as well. Big shout out to them. But these stages had a lot of cameos from different fighting games in the same franchise. Cody was also included in the cameo, and his wife Jessica as well. But every time Cody looks at other girls, Jessica reacts, and then boom, she punches him so hard. Dawson's wife is also included in this game as well. Every time Dawson gets hit, she shakes her head, but every time Dawson does bits, she claps so much. But in that way, it tends to end in kaput when she loses. Divorce papers are definitely coming your way, Missy. But let's not forget, as the game grew bigger and bigger, there were some versions of characters that were included in this game. Ones that were never included was Cammy. She basically was included in Street Fighter 2 Gold, because this one was where she was known as a cameo for X-Men vs Street Fighter, but in this game she was in Street Fighter 3. But she also appeared in Street Fighter 2, which is her first ever appearance. So that was also a nice inclusion of her being in the game. But honestly, her moves were very deadly, especially when you have Bison on the scene. So codependent whenever he's around her, seriously. Shin Akuma is the definition of a broken character for sure. He had so many infinite combos on many people, especially on his Mitsus. It's so deadly that it's really hard to escape from at times, but sometimes it is easy because all you have to do is just jump, right? But his fireballs are very oppressive as well, so basically every time you go inside his infinite combo, it's deadly ones. and also his taunts especially are very deadly too. When you're near them, you're burned. Evil Ryu on the other hand isn't as broken as Akuma, but every time he does a certain move, which I'm about to show you right now, is definition of why it's hard to escape. Even if you try and jump over them, it's so bad at the same time. His ending when he faces Akuma is definition of a hint of what you get, as basically he says you possess the same power as I. Akuma in this one is very scary in this game. Dramatic battles were included in this game. It was the first time ever you see 2 users go against 1 computer. Basically this was against other computers that are included into this game, so whenever you use the same super move, it's so much fun. Also you get to produce as much combos as you can, so you don't have to rely on yourself to do it, but there are only 4 dramatic battles that you have to do, which is very short. But at the same time, it's a very fun mode to play, especially when you have it on PlayStation. So I recommend trying this out because this is such a fun game to do it. But big shout out to Capcom for trying this out as well. Basically all those enemies that you're going against are part of the Shadowloo. So Bison's going to be included, Sagat's going to be included, and so on and so forth. So yeah, this is a fun game. You should definitely check it out for yourself. Using Ryu and Ken in dramatic battles is like a cherry on top for this mode. Basically their combos are also so elite that even though they have the same fighting style, they both go hard when it comes to performing massive combos, which is insane. As I said before, I think these environments on both the Street Fighter 1 and Street Fighter 2 Alpha series are gorgeous, but Street Fighter Alpha 2 stole the show for me, with all the characters that are included in the cameo. Also, there was also different parts of the stages that have variety in terms of whether it is a city or a rural urban area. These places are very gorgeous, and I definitely think that the concept art that you see behind the scenes adds the cherry on top towards how the game was played. Also, Sakura stages where you have his little brother playing on the Super Nintendo is literally the best way to do it. Obviously they did an update on it on Street Fighter 5, which is great, and it's even better as well. But there were weaker sides to it. Basically Super Nintendo tried to do Street Fighter Alpha and there was very much delays as you go alongside it. Like, see it.
And we're done. Fight! Hey, fight! That's 30 frames per second.
Seriously, there were 30 frames per second later. Street Fighter Alpha 2 on the Super Nintendo was so bad, but eventually they fixed it later on in the series. But in terms of glitches, that's what introduced to this game.
The glitch. Fuck you, Steve. Stop doing the glitch. It's so amazing, though.
It's even on the Super Nintendo.
But overall, Street Fighter Alpha 2 will go down as one of the best games in the Street Fighter series. But even though there's Street Fighter Alpha 3, that was the best game, but people will disagree and say that Street Fighter Alpha 2 is better than Street Fighter Alpha 3, but we'll have to see for yourself because Street Fighter Alpha 3 is a great game as well. So yeah, make sure you check out Street Fighter Alpha 2, definitely a classic.